everyone, Cameron with CBM Reviews here, and we're on the road to Infinity War again. This time we are ending Phase 2 with Ant-Man. Ant-Man was directed by Peyton Reed, and it stars Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, and Corey Stoll. When they announced it, most people were like, what? It wasn't one of those flagship characters that everybody knew. Ant-Man wasn't really any tier at this point. Like, the hardcore fanboys, we knew Ant-Man. Nobody else really knew Ant-Man. So, whenever this movie came out, there weren't a whole lot of high expectations in the general scope. Surprise! We got an entertaining movie. This is a heist film from top to bottom where we see Paul Rudd playing Scott Lang, who is an ex-con, and he's trying to go straight, but he just can't seem to get the jobs that he needs, and he gets a job from a seemingly anonymous source to break in and steal something behind a big giant door vault, and he goes in, and it's a suit. All it is a suit. He's like, well, if I went through all this trouble, I might as well go ahead and take the suit. Well, this suit, it belongs to Hank Pym, who was the Ant-Man, a rumored superhero, but nobody really knew that he actually existed. And Hank Pym actually used Scott Lang to get some things done within an old company that he used to run because he thinks that his protege, Cross, is about to make a breakthrough in shrinking technology, and he doesn't want it falling into the wrong hands. So Scott and Hank train together along with Evangeline Lilly, who is playing the role of Hope. They go into Cross Technologies and they stop the technology from getting out for the most part, but Cross has one ace up his sleeve and he puts on the experimental suit, turning into Yellow Jacket.
Who?
Yellow Jacket, man. The hero goes in, the hero fights, the hero wins. That's usually the case in this. That's usually how I finish up every single synopsis. We have Paul Rudd, who's playing the lead, and he's more comedic than he is heroic, and that works out in his favor because it works as a nice other side of the coin to Hank Pym, who is very stoic in this. Normally, I don't promote other people's channels or videos on my stuff, but there's a very interesting video on film theory on why Ant-Man physics don't work. It's worth noting, if you're going to talk about Ant-Man, you have to talk about the things that don't work and why they don't work, at least as far as the physics go in that story. So instead of me, talking about it, I'm just going to link the annotation, and you go check that out. Matt Pat does great work, so absolutely go check that out. I'm not going to take the credit for that, but everything he says, it's true. Overall, it's definitely worth checking out. I don't think that this is a must-watch if you're getting ready for Infinity War, but I will say this. I think that this, even though it's the end of Phase 2, I think that this is a possible jumping-off point on Phase 4. I think with the introduction, because all of these characters, these main characters that we see are new characters, I don't think that it would be out of the realm of possibility that one of these three main characters that are protagonists is a Skrull. But that's just my opinion. Josh and John decided to weigh in as well. Take it away, guys.
Hey everyone, John again for Cameron over at CBM Reviews, and tonight we're talking about Ant-Man. So, Ant-Man kind of finished up Marvel's Phase 2, and you're thinking, alright, so we hit up Age of Ultron, what are we going to follow that with? How are we going to close out this chapter? With a comedy. That's a heist movie that looks at some of the fringe characters in the universe. Ant-Man to me sits with kind of the, I guess you could call them Marvel's side flicks. Doctor Strange, the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and now the Ant-Man movies. These are the ones that were kind of on the edge of the MCU. They helped a lot to kind of flesh out the universe. You've got Paul Rudd, who's a comic actor. He's been in all kinds of stuff. It's the classic bad guy trying to make good, trying to go straight. And of course he gets pulled in for one more deal. And that score is to steal the Ant-Man suit for Hank Pym. Which, I don't think at the time he knows he's doing it for Hank Pym, but it's a test. It's hilarious all the way through. Michael Pena is just the standout treasure in this movie. He steals every scene that he's in. And you see a lot of the directorial flourishes that you don't get in the mainstream Marvel movies, in movies like this, in movies like Guardians of the Galaxy, in Doctor Strange. The part everybody's going to remember is whenever Michael Pena is giving the rundown on a situation. Yeah, I know this guy, who knows this guy, who knows this guy. And the whole way those sequences are shot is he's speaking, and then you see all the other players that he's describing speaking his words, like just really creative touch. Now, there were some directorial issues early on. Edgar Wright was supposed to have directed it, and I guess the final word is kind of that he didn't want to have as many cinematic universe tie-ins as what Marvel Studios wanted. So this movie that was stuck in just development limbo for 10 years, finally they gave Edgar Wright the boot, and Peyton Reed comes in, and Peyton Reed turns in just this fantastic movie. Getting back to the story, Paul Rudd gets pulled in, has to kind of become a hitman because the reason that Hank Pym wants the suit stolen is to find somebody who's capable of stealing it in the first place, in order to keep his tech from falling into the wrong hands, those being the hands of a guy named Darren Cross.
Who?
It's a classic Marvel villain problem of either a villain who's not really all that memorable, not all that appealing, or we've been there, done that. You remember Obadiah Stane from Iron Man? This is Obadiah Stane 2.5? Pym had the idea for the Pym particles, so this guy who's younger, hungrier, and more ruthless wants to come along and weaponize him. I mean, Stane was older than Tony, but you get the idea. We've seen that. We've done that. He does a really good job of kind of getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the edge, and then when he falls off, it's fun. Like, I enjoyed it. The role is not memorable, but the actor playing it is, and the performance he turned in is. We do get to see some really fun post-Ultron stuff. I love the bit where Scott Lang, Paul Rudd, has to try and break into the Avengers HQ and ends up having to fight Falcon. That part's hilarious. But the thing that really shines through in the movie is the heart. It is an extremely warm, charming, engaging, just great story, great performances by the characters. Watching Paul interact with his daughter, the child actor that they got for the daughter, all of that is just, it's aww, all the way through. It's all the warm and fuzzies instead of just punchy smashy. And I love punchy smashy, but I really like it when they bring that heart there too. That's one of the reasons why I love Guardians of the Galaxy so much. It's one of the reasons why I love the Cap movies so much, because there's more to Cap than just a shield and muscles. Would I recommend it? Absolutely. This is one of those that you could sit down and show to anybody at just about any point in the series. If they're like, who is this Falcon guy? Whatever. I'll tell you later. Just keep watching the movie. It doesn't matter so much on that part. It's a great, almost standalone movie. Ant-Man. If you haven't already, check it out.
I'll be the first to admit, with the Ant-Man movie I was surprised, but in a good way. Honestly, I just didn't expect much of it, and a lot of that is because I've never really connected with Hank Pym / Ant-Man the way I have with a lot of the other Avengers characters. When we look at the Avengers in general, we've got a bunch of the All-Stars that are just really top-tier heroes. We've got Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, even somebody like Vision. They've got really interesting character arcs and stories and background. They've got interesting villains for the most part. They've got sometimes a storyline or two that really grabs hold of the reader and hits on a large demographic and is something different than what we've seen before. And then sometimes they even have a setting thing, kind of like how Thor did. But with Ant-Man, we didn't have any of that. We have a guy who can shrink down. In later years, they added that he could grow, and he can control ants. And I don't know, controlling ants is kind of like Aquaman. He controls fish, but that's not going to sell a movie. You got to do a whole lot more than that, right? So what were they going to go ahead and do? One of the first things that Marvel did that was really, really smart was the marketing of this movie. They went ahead and when they released the teaser trailer, they released the itty-bitty teaser trailer. And you couldn't even see it. You could see it running, but you couldn't watch it. And to me, that was interesting. It was a little bit of a slap in the face, like, oh man, you're kidding me. But at the same point, I think it helped build hype. And that's because you've got the anticipation of wanting to see what's next. In addition to that, some of the things they did with the marketing, they had the miniature billboards they had placed at different places. They had the artist in London. He was known for doing micro scenes. They hired him to do micro Ant-Man art across London, and so people would tweet about it or put it on Pinterest or whatever. Those sorts of things got people interested in the movie and go, yeah, it could be kind of cool to see something that we don't even realize is going on. I would also add that one of the things that they did that I thought was good at this movie is they redesigned the Ant-Man costume a bit. Now, we've seen most of the costumes have had some updating. This one really needed it. The original helmet, kind of silly, especially with the antenna, and the new version actually not only looks functional, it looks kind of cool. It looks like something you would expect to see in some sort of a sci-fi movie or something. It was completely believable to me, and that was one of the things that I liked. And then when we go ahead and get into the movie itself, one of the things right from the beginning is you can tell they took this movie and this project seriously because we look at the CGI on Michael Douglas's face when they go ahead and they give him the facelift, basically, the digital facelift. That is 20, 30 years off of him, and it looks good. It looks really good. They spent a lot of time and money on this. And I look at that in comparison to X-Men The Last Stand and Patrick Stewart, who's a good-looking guy, even for an older guy. Oh, that looks so fake. So fake. And so in comparison, you go, hey, that's not looking bad. And that helps give us an idea of who Hank Pym is. Having him be older, where Paul Rudd's character comes in, and basically, I didn't invent the suit, I just use it, lets us do things that we wouldn't have necessarily done with the traditional Hank Pym. Hank Pym was another scientist, and you know, he's not quite the scientist that Tony Stark is. He's not quite the scientist that Bruce Banner is. He's got his own kind of a niche there, but he's just not as prominent. And so having Paul Rudd's character come in, you get a character that can have some humorous lines, which honestly, the levity is pretty nice. It's something that is not only good in this film, but also is good in like other films where he's added into the MCU and into the roster for the Avengers. That's something where he can make a comment or a wisecrack or something, kind of like Spider-Man, where a lot of these other characters can't do it. It just doesn't quite fit. So when I was watching this movie, you know, some of the things that I really just were compelling to me that I didn't think would be were seeing some of the miniature battles when they're fighting in like the suitcase and everything's toppling around, or they're fighting on the train set, and you know, we hear these big explosions and we see big things, and there's like the train that's crushing and there's all the loud noise and everything, and then of course they zoom out at the last second and you see Dink is just, you know, falls over on the tracks. It's not anything big at all, but that creates a humor to it because there's that juxtaposition. And so with this movie, there were a lot of opportunities to do things like that, which were really neat. The storyline itself, I thought they did an okay job on making it somewhat interesting, but truthfully, it felt a little bit like a rehash of Iron Man. Again, guys trying to get my company, guys trying to get my suit, my invention, at least for the intro. I can't tell you for the life of me what the bad guy's name is. I'd have to go look it up. That's kind of how forgettable he is. Now, I know Yellow Jacket, I know the suit, but I don't remember the scientist guy, the business guy. Who? He's not really even a threat till like the last third of the movie anyway. So, I mean, that part's just not really developed. I mean, Paul Rudd is fighting, you know, doing stuff in the sewers and ants and whatever else. He's doing all this other stuff before he ever really messes with Yellow Jacket. And so, for me, that was definitely one of the weaker parts of this movie. When I think about this movie, though, as a whole, it was funny. It was a great family movie. This is something that I would absolutely take kids to. This is something that in the future, I'm sure I would watch with kids again. And it's something that does have some level of replay value. Like I said, it's not the most compelling villain, but for an intro story and for Ant-Man, he does add something unique to the MCU. He does add to, he does actually have a pretty good solo movie. Like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect it to be quite as good as it is. And in the end, I would say this movie is actually pretty good. It's not the best of the MCU lineup. It's absolutely not the worst.
Thanks guys for those reviews. I really love it when I get new reviews in because that way you can get some perspective that's not just mine but other people's as well. If you want to be like Josh or John, send your reviews to comicbookquizbowl@gmail.com. What reviews am I looking for? Well, upcoming we're looking at Captain America Civil War. We're also looking for a Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I already gave you the email, and this also gives you possible entries for the giveaway. We don't have much time left, but we need to get those subscriptions so that one of you guys can win the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe on Blu-ray. So definitely jump on that. So that's it for Ant-Man. What did you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe to my channel. And share this video with all of your friends. This is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.